The next international break is just around the corner, but before we get there, we've got 10 more Premier League fixtures, including the M23 derby at Selhurst Park, and we finish up the weekend as two heavy hitters of the Premier League go toe-to-toe at the Etihad as Manchester City host Liverpool. But before we begin predicting these 10 Premier League fixtures, I got a shout out. I got a shout out for Peter again, who won the Tartan Geo prediction competition last weekend. He correctly predicted Brighton to beat Leeds. He got the score bang on at Turf Moor as Arsenal beat Burnley 2-0. He also correctly predicted Manchester City to beat Bournemouth 3-1 and Sunderland, his team, to draw 1-1 with Everton. So Peter, congratulations. Here's your prize, which is a shout out from a random Scotsman that chants nonsense on YouTube. That would be me. But we don't stop there. It's not just Peter. We've got Westwood Hammer as well. He thought Crystal Palace would beat Brentford. He also correctly predicted 1-1 at the Stadium of Light. And he also thought Liverpool would beat Aston Villa 2-0. Another impressive set of predictions from Westwood Hammer. So congratulations, you two. You're the winners from last weekend. And you at home watching right now could be the winner for this coming weekend. All you have to do is give me your predictions in the comments below. And I've made it simple for you. I put the list of fixtures in the description and the pinned comments. Just copy, paste, give me your predictions, but get them in before 12:30 on Saturday. Do you know why? Because at 12:30 on Saturday, Spurs host Manchester United. Tottenham needed that win in the Champions League during the week, not just because of their Champions League hopes, but just for morale among the Spurs fan base. When they hosted Chelsea last weekend, they generated just 0.1 XG for the game, and I appreciate XG isn't for everyone. People don't like it. I understand why. It is a tad boring. Even as someone that likes statistics, I will concede it's a bit boring. But I do think it gives you a bit of an idea and reflects the game state sometimes. And I do think it reflected just how bad Tottenham were against Chelsea. And the reason that's important, that 0.1, is because it's the lowest any team has accumulated in a game in the Premier League so far this season. They need to get back to winning ways, but they also need to get back to entertaining ways at Spurs, something they haven't really seen under Thomas Frank yet. Hosting Manchester United, who have won 3 and drawn 1 of their last game after finishing 2-2 against Nottingham Forest at the City Ground, which means that geezer, his afro, continues to grow. The counter has been reset. He'll be hoping Man U get underway. Perhaps he'll be hoping they don't, because once it's cut, he just disappears, doesn't he? Because he can't do another one. He can't say, all right, 6 games this time, let's start again. So once Man U win 5 in a row, his minute of fame comes to an end. So it's almost in his best interest Man U don't win 5 games in a row. But they've only won 1 of their last 11 domestic away games. So statistically, Man U are looking good on one side, not so great on the other. Tottenham are looking all right in some ways, but they're just bloody boring. I'm going to say Spurs 1, Manchester United 1. Everton hosts Fulham, one side in bad form up against another team who were in bad form until last weekend. Everton just 1 win in 7 Premier League games now. However, at the Bramley Moor Docks, they've won 3, drawn 2 and lost 1. Not the worst record to have at their new stadium. Can often encounter teething problems, but Everton, they're doing all right at home. Hosting Fulham, who had lost 4 ahead of winning against Wolves last weekend. But it was against Wolves, weren't it? How much can you read into that? How much can you think, okay, Fulham have turned the corner? It's unconvincing at best. And there was an element of luck in their first goal with the ricochet off the defender. Wolves going down to 10 men. That was the perfect fixture for Marco Silva and Fulham last weekend. But you've got to take advantage of it, right? While Wolves have lost 8 of their 10 games so far this season, there's still 2 games in where they got a point. Funny enough, one of them was against boring old Spurs at home. At Spurs' ground. For this one, I find it hard to divide the 2 teams here. Neither team are convincing. Neither team are great at the minute. They're not far away from the bottom 3 either. But this is Moyes' favourite team to play. He's beaten Fulham 19 times in his career, 7 more than any other club. So Moyes loves it against Fulham. Marco Silva doesn't have the best record against his former club either. But when I find it hard to decide who I think is going to win, just go down the middle. Everton 1, Fulham 1. Now, before I discuss West Ham, if you're new to Tartan Geo, please do subscribe. And also, if you enjoy my preview and prediction show, I would appreciate a lot if you could drop a like on it by clicking thumbs up. Both things are free, takes you a couple of seconds, and I would appreciate the support. Thank you very much. My team, West Ham, hosts Burnley in what is a must-win game for us. And I appreciate people say you don't get them in November. I disagree. I think we got to keep winning. We beat Newcastle. That was a pleasant and much welcome surprise. I wasn't expecting it at all. But we now need to go win another one. If we can beat Burnley, we'll got equal points with them. Depending on the score, we might come out of the bottom three for the first time this season. That would give us a much needed lift going into the international break. Because after the international break, we've got Liverpool, Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Brighton and Manchester United. Not in that particular order, but that's our next 5 games after international break. So there's a tough set of fixtures coming up for us. We need to get this win on board. Burnley will not be an easy team to play. They are doing well against the teams around them. They beat Wolves, they beat Leeds, they drew against Nottingham Forest. They're losing the games against the more difficult teams like Arsenal. That's expected. I think Burnley should be and are happy with the outcome of their results so far, just outside the bottom 3. This is a must not lose for Burnley, but I think it's a must win for West Ham United. Maybe I'm getting carried away off the back of beating a poor Newcastle. I'm a West Ham fan. I'm not going to apologise for it. West Ham United 2, Burnley 1. Sunderland host Arsenal at the Stadium of Light. 4th versus 1st. If you're a Sunderland fan, you're probably loving it. Let me just say that again. Sunderland in 4th place in the Premier League host Arsenal, who are top of the Premier League, on Saturday afternoon at the Stadium of Light. Sunderland losing just 1 of their last 8 league games, winning 3 and drawn 2 at home so far, unbeaten at the Stadium of Light. Best promoted team in the Premier League in terms of points tally since Hull City in 2008-2009. Coming up against Arsenal though. I mean, this is the team you don't want to play. You want your feel-good factor to keep going as a Sunderland fan, don't you? You want that run to keep going, keep putting points on the board, and they're enjoying where they are, and so they should. Football can be short-term, and it can be enjoy it while it lasts, and I don't think Sunderland are going to get relegated. I've never thought Sunderland will get relegated. I'm even more convinced they won't. But I certainly think they can adjust their hopes for this season and knock it up to top half. Could we finish 10? That would still be a success. I appreciate they're 4th at the minute, so you might feel that's quite negative, but I think it's also adding in realism into what has been a brilliant start so far. But Arsenal are just, I don't want to say they're just Arsenal. They're not. Arsenal aren't Arsenal anymore. That Arsenal that we've seen over the last few seasons, where they bottle it and they finish runner-up and they're not quite good enough, that Arsenal's gone. I suspect. They've got to go prove it. They've got to go win things now. They've got to win. They don't have any trophies at the end of the season. It's still here. But I suspect Arsenal is no longer Arsenal. This Arsenal feels like Man City. This feels like the apprentice is finally outdoing his master with Arteta and Pep. They're just unbeatable. They've won their last 4 league games without conceding a goal. But they've conceded like 1 or 2 shots on target. That's it. It is ridiculous. It doesn't matter who Arsenal play. I'm predicting them to win. So this prediction is not a reflection of Sunderland. It's a reflection of Arsenal. Sunderland 0, Arsenal 2. Chelsea host Wolves at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea are a funny team, don't they? They always feel like they're one unhappy result away from crisis, don't they? They drew in the Champions League, and I see a lot being made of it. I think it's not the end of the world. Ideally, you don't go to Azerbaijan and only draw against a team that sounds like carrier bag, but it's not the end of the world. They've lost the last couple at Stamford Bridge. It's not great, and I appreciate 28 games prior to that, they'd only lost 2 in 28. So some things are suggesting it's not great. But if they win at the weekend, they go to the top 4, which I think it's all right for where Chelsea are. They're a funny old club, aren't they? But who better to play than Wolves? Now, Pereira's gone now, so that's good news for Wolves fans, because it felt like he'd lost the dressing room. What was going on with Andre and Gomez, it didn't really make sense. You've got 2 Brazilian international central midfielders sat on the bench at times, so I think he had lost the dressing room. But it's hard to see them suddenly becoming good enough to go to Chelsea and get the win. I think a draw would be a good result in isolation for Wolves, but it would still put them on 3 points after 11 games. Not good. No team with 2 points after 10 games have stayed up. They've all been relegated in the history of the Premier League. I appreciate you can point to Wolves last season and say, oh, it was 11 games before they got their first win, but they had more points on the board at that point prior. Plus, the 3 promoted teams were crap last season. That's not the case anymore. It's hard to see Wolves getting out of this, and therefore, at what point do the players feel like that, and what point does the motivation dip? I would suggest it's already happened. Can they just get up and running now? It's under 21s and under 18s manager in charge for this one. Forgive me, I don't know their names. One of the names is a former footballer. The under 18s coach is a former footballer. James Collins, isn't it? James Collins has come to my head. I was thinking it's a former footballer's name, but it's not the former footballer. It's James Collins. As always, I'm going to Google that, edit it out if I have to. No, I'm not leaving it in. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Shoot me. Well, don't do that, please. Don't shoot me. I'd like to live a little bit longer. My prediction, I'm going to say Chelsea 2, Wolves 1. I think you'll see a spirited performance from Wolves, but Chelsea have to win this game. They absolutely have to. Aston Villa hosts Bournemouth. Sounds like a good game, doesn't it? Last season, Villa picked up 4 points from their 2 fixtures against Bournemouth. Won the last 4 at Villa Park. Now, I should just stress I'm recording this Thursday morning, so Villa haven't played Tel Aviv yet, that controversial fixture because of the fans being allowed to the ground or not. So they haven't played yet. Crystal Palace haven't played Alkmaar yet. Nottingham Forest haven't played Sturm Graz. I'm being tested on my English and European competitions here off the cuff, haven't I? I think I've got them all right. Anyway, that's the context applies. So Villa have won their last 4 at Villa Park prior to this one. They'll be disappointed losing to Liverpool, who were bang out of form. And the way that Emery set up in that game, I think he got it all wrong. Coming up against the Bournemouth team, who are doing really well, but they've only got 1 win in the last 5 away games. Now, some of those away fixtures you look at and say, well, they're pretty tough. Anfield, Etihad, they've been to those 2 grounds already, but they've also been to, Ellen Road, for example. So 1 win in 5 is possibly disappointing, but when you look at the fixtures in isolation, it's maybe not the end of the world. I'm expecting goals at Villa Park. I'm going to say Aston Villa 2, Bournemouth 2 for this one. Brentford host Newcastle. Tell you what, though, after 10 games, Brentford are just ever so slightly above Newcastle in the league. And I think if you offered Brentford fans that before the season got underway, they would have taken it. And that's where they are. 1-3 drawn, 1 and lost 1 at home for Brentford. They've got a really good record, whereas Newcastle have drawn 3 and lost 2 away from St James's Park so far in the Premier League. They were stinking against West Ham last weekend. A decent enough performance during the week in Champions League against Athletic Club, but it was quite a straightforward, a couple of early scares from the away side, but by the end of it was quite a comfortable evening for Newcastle against a bit of a weakened La Liga side, but they needed it. Again, you need to bounce back from those disappointing results. This is a bit of a test for Newcastle, I think, because Howe's receiving a lot of criticism. He's been quite critical of his players. A couple of players have picked up, Anthony Gordon picked up an injury. I don't think that's a bad thing. I didn't realise how bad his form was until after the West Ham game at the weekend there. So him coming out and putting Barnes there and then either Murphy or Elanga, who really needs to get up and running quickly on the other side, I think it might actually be a bit of a blessing in disguise. You don't want it to be a serious injury, but him being out for this one game, putting Barnes into the left wing position might actually benefit Newcastle for this one. A hard game to call, actually. Brentford have been impressive. They would be disappointed with their result last weekend, getting beat comfortably. Didn't have a shot on target till the 57th minute or something like that. And when you've got a front three of Shada, Thiago and Utara, you should be yielding more opportunities and more shots than they are. They're quite low down when it comes to shots tally in the Premier League this season. Manchester United still topping that shots on target chart after last weekend's games as well. I'm going to say Brentford 1, Newcastle 1, but a difficult game for me to call. Crystal Palace against Brighton, we've got that random rivalry, and I'm okay with it. Do you know what? It gets a lot of criticism from non-Palace and Brighton fans, a lot of people saying it's not a rivalry, etc., etc. I don't think they're arsed. I don't think Palace fans or Brighton fans care what other fans think, and they shouldn't either. You don't have to agree that it's a rivalry. You have to think it's a bit strange. It didn't even exist till the 70s when they started playing each other. Well, they played each other in a friendly. This is my interpretation of it. They played each other in a friendly, and it was a bit naughty before the game. Not on the football pitch, between the two sets of fans. Then I think they played each other in the league a few seasons later, quite early on, and again it got a little bit tasty, and I think that's what sparked it. But my interpretation could be wrong. It doesn't bother me. I think rivalry in football is an important thing, and I think they keep taking stuff out of football, which is removing emotion from the game. Like VAR's gone in there and killed emotion for a lot of it for goals. You can't even celebrate the bloody things now. So, as far as I'm concerned, any game that's got a little bit of history, a little bit of that rivalry between the fans and the players, more. I want more of it. I think it's a good thing. Important games in football is a good thing, because the last thing you want to watch is your team play 38 games and none of them really have that meaning to them. So I get why some people think it's a bit fake. But you're not a Palace or a Brighton fan. It's kind of irrelevant, really. If they think it's an important one, that's good enough for me. I'm looking forward to this one, though, for footballing reasons. Should be a good game. Crystal Palace went 4 without a win, but they've won their last 2 before tonight's game in the Conference League, of course. And Palace won both of these games last season. They beat Brighton on both occasions. Brighton, an important win last week, is one of those banana skin ones that they came through perfectly fine. And it looked like they battered Leeds, going by the highlights. I didn't watch the full duration of that victory. I'll probably watch this game 2 o'clock on Sunday. This is probably the one I'll tune into. I'm expecting goals. I'm expecting action. I'm going to say Crystal Palace 2, Brighton 1. Moving on to Nottingham Forest, who host Leeds United. Possibly a good fixture for Nottingham Forest. Coming up against surely the worst team, apart from Wolves, the worst team away from home in the league. Saying that, no, they beat Wolves, didn't they, Leeds, and we've just discovered that Newcastle haven't won away from home yet, but they have drawn 3, so they'll be equal points. Anyway, Leeds have got one of the worst away records in the league, only scoring 3 goals in 5 games, and all 3 coming in the first half against Wolves at the Molineux as well. Coming up against Nottingham Forest, who are better against Manchester United, but it would be hard not to, because they were absolutely crap against Bournemouth the week prior. That was one of the stinkiest performances I've seen from a team in the Premier League this season. I said that is worse than anything I've seen under Postecoglou, and not one Nottingham Forest fan came back and said you're wrong, but I appreciate maybe 0 Nottingham Forest fans tuned in to that particular video. An important one for Leeds. However, if they were to win, it would put them 8 points ahead of Nottingham Forest after 11 games. That would be a brilliant position for Leeds to be in. Not so good for Nottingham Forest. I feel Leeds feels fragile. Reading Leeds fans' opinions at the minute, they are worried. They're worried about the team. They're worried about Fark. They're worried about this game. And I understand why. It does feel a little bit skating on thin ice. And a win for a win for Nottingham Forest here. And regardless of what happens at the London Stadium, Burnley winning is bad for them, West Ham's winning bad for them, and a draw's bad for them. So there's not really a good outcome in that fixture. If Wolves were to somehow pick something up at Stamford Bridge, I can get why they're getting a little bit worried. And I think that worry is only going to heighten after this fixture. I'm going to say Nottingham Forest 2, Leeds United 0. Manchester City host Liverpool in what has been almost like an unofficial title decider in seasons gone by, but perhaps doesn't look that way this season. But neither of these teams can afford to lose ground on Arsenal. Liverpool won both of these games 2-0 last season, won their last couple of games as well. Slot's gone back to what he did last season in terms of midfield with Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai. I thought they looked brilliant against Real Madrid during the week. I thought they were excellent, actually. And it felt like last season's Liverpool. Conor Bradley shutting down Vinicius Jr. at right back as well. That was a really impressive performance from him. He's capable of it. We've seen it last season too. Manchester City, though, they are purring a little bit. 1 loss in 13, which was against Villa a couple of weeks ago. Won 6 of their last 7. City are looking good. And also, Erling Haaland's just bloody Erling Haaland. He's just mental at the minute, isn't he? The amount of goals he's scored. I am shocked if he doesn't score 2. It's if he doesn't score at all, wow, okay. But if he doesn't even score 2 in a game, I'm like, hey, he scores 1. I'm like, he's had a bit of a quiet game, Haaland, isn't he? What's he been doing? Lazy bugger. A difficult one for Liverpool. This, whilst they've looked better in the last couple of games, they have lost 4 of the 7 away games in all competitions this season. I'm expecting 2 defences to be a little bit open. Both managers knowing that they've got to win. I think this feels like a must-win game again. I get why people say you don't get must-win games in November, but I think it is for City and Liverpool here. They can't afford to lose ground. They've got to keep winning just to keep up, just to maintain that points difference between themselves and Arsenal. I think it's a must-win game for both of these. I'm looking forward to it. Sometimes they can disappoint and finish 0-0. I'm hoping we don't see that cautious approach from both managers. Saying that, we had something similar at the Emirates, didn't we, with Arsenal and Man City when City took the lead. Then you saw this unusual, uncharacteristic from Pep when he was just chucking on defenders. He was defending 5-5-0 at the end and Arsenal grabbed the equaliser. I don't think we'll see that. I'm going to say Manchester City 3, Liverpool 2. I'm certainly hoping for goals at the Etihad. But I want to know what you're hoping for. Get involved in the predictions below, well, in the comments below. Give me your predictions, but get them in by 12:30 and just be a little bit boring and to remind you, you've got to get them in by 12:30 on Saturday. And no edited comments. I was having a look. One of you edited a comment last week. I have to ignore it because I don't know when you've edited it. You could have done it after the games and stuff like that. So if you make a mistake, delete it and put in a different comment, please. Thank you very much. But before you go, drop a like on it, subscribe to Tartan Geo. I'll catch you in a bit.